Hey guys, you're welcome to another tutorial on this channel. Thank you for stopping by. In this video, I'll be showing us the process of cutting and stitching this beautiful skirt. You can call this a cottage skirt or a tiered skirt. Now this tutorial is detailed and easy to follow. So if you love seeing tutorials like this, why not keep watching and let's get into the video. To make this skirt, you will need a fabric that is not thick so it can flow well. Here I have crepe fabric which is lightweight and it is 4 yards, although I didn't exhaust it, so I will say 3.5 yards should be enough, but that depends on the body size. Now the first thing to do is to determine the length and the width of the skirt, and I'm going to be illustrating that on this pattern paper. So let's say this is the skirt. You have to determine the layers you want it to have. It can be 4, it can be 3 or 2. For me, I want it to be 4 tiered, so I will divide this into 4. Now that I have the skirt divided, the next thing to do is to determine the length. For my skirt length, I want it to be 43 inches. Go ahead and determine how long you want your skirt to be. Having determined the skirt length, the next thing to do is to divide the length by the number of layers your skirt will have. Here I will divide mine by 4, and 43 divided by 4 is 10.75. This means the length of each tier will be 10.75. The next thing to do is to decide if you want each of these to be the same length. Now for the first tier, I'll take out 1.5 inches. That 1.5 inches will serve as the band because a band will be added. If I take out 1.5 inches from 10.75, I'll be left with 9.25. That means the length of my first tier is 9.25 and the height of my band will be 1.5 inches. For the rest of the tier, I want it to maintain the same length. But if you don't want yours to have the same length, you can take out some inches from the second tier and add it up to the third and the fourth, or you can just manipulate the measurement whichever way so you can have your desired length. Now we've established the length, let's talk about the width for each tier. We are going to be making use of our hip circumference to do this. So my hip circumference is 40 inches. And I will multiply 40 inches by 1.5 to get the width for the first tier. Reason why we are multiplying our hip circumference by 1.5 inches is to get enough volume of fabric to gather, okay? 40 multiplied by 1.5 inches is 60, so the width for the first tier is 60 inches. For the second tier, I will multiply that 60 inches by 1.5 again, that's 90. Then multiply the 90 by 1.5 inches for the third tier. And for the last tier, I'll multiply 135 by 1.5 inches. That's 202.5. Now, this is the representation of each tier and the width. The first one is 60 inches. That's the circumference for the first one. The front and the back is 60 inches. Same goes for the rest of the tier. Each measurement is the circumference, okay? That's the front and the back. And when you want to cut out your fabric, you use each length against its width, okay? The next thing to do now is to cut out the fabric using this measurement. So I will set this aside and do that. I have marked out the length for the first tier and my fabric is on a fold of 2. This part is the serge edge, so I want to cut it off. For the length, remember it is 9.25, but I added extra 1 inch sewing allowance, making the total length 10.25. So half inch will be stitched to the band and the other half inch will be stitched to the second tier. For the width, it is 60 inches that was calculated earlier, which is 30 inches on fold. I will go ahead now to cut this out. At this point, I have cut out the fabric for the remaining tiers of camera and I added extra 1 inch sewing allowance. You should do that too. Here is the first one. I labeled it so it won't get mixed up. This is for the second tier. The width is 90 inches just like it was calculated, which is 45 inches on fold. For the length, I added extra 1 inch, making it 11.75. The third one is the same length with the second, the only difference is the width. Make sure to notch your center fold and your side fold. This will help your gathers to be evenly distributed. Here is the last tier. It is the same length with the second and the third. I had to join my fabric so as to have the 202.5 I calculated for it, and I also notched the center and the side fold. Now that we are done cutting, the next thing to do is to start stitching. I will be joining the first two together first. So what I'll do is to run a loose stitch at the top of the second fabric all the way to the end. After running the loose stitch, I will gather the fabric to the circumference of the first one, which is 60 inches. Now that I have run the loose stitch, I will pull on one of the threads to gather the fabric. I gathered this to 60 inches, which is the circumference of the first tier. The next thing to do is to attach it together. Each notch part will align and I will pin this together right side facing. I will go over to the sewing machine now to stitch, and I'll stitch it at the gather side so as to arrange the gathers as I stitch. Here is what I have after joining the first two tiers together. I also run a loose stitch at the top of the first tier, then gather it to my waist circumference. The next thing to do is to attach the third tier. I already gathered this to the circumference of the second one, which is 90 inches. I will locate each notch and align it, then pin it together right side facing just like I did the first. Then go over to the sewing machine to stitch. This is what I have after stitching the first, second and third tier together. So I'm going to stitch the last tier just like I did the first three. You can see I already gathered the last tier and I gathered it to the circumference of the third one, which is 135. I will go ahead now to do that. I have successfully stitched everything together and this is what I have. You can see it looks so nice. If you arrange your gathers well, you are going to have something like this. The next thing to do now is to attach band at the waist. So I'll go back to my table to do this. Before you attach your band, you must have gathered this to your waist circumference. Then you add extra inch or inches as zipper allowance. I already cut out my band and the height is 4 inches, which is 2 inches on fold. And after stitching, I will have 1.5 inches just like I wanted. For the length, it is long enough to go around my waist plus the zipper allowance. I already notched the center of my band as you can see. Then I will attach one side of the band to the center of the waist. Go over to the sewing machine and stitch it round. After stitching one side of the band to the waist, I will use the other side of the band to cover up the seam this way. Then go over to the sewing machine to top stitch. I'll be doing the top stitching from the right side and it will be under the band. After top stitching, the next thing I will do is to fix zipper and close the side. So from the band, I'll come down by 9 inches. That is where my zipper will stop. Then I will close the remaining parts all the way down. After top stitching, this is what I have, and this is what the wrong side looks like. For the zipper, I fixed it, but in a traditional way because the color did not match with my fabric. I had to cover it up. For the side, I closed it all the way down. I also went ahead to fold in the hem and stitch it round. And with this, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I'll see you in my next one.